Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Vegan Spirituality online gathering. Thanks so much for joining us for our December gathering. We really appreciate it. My name is Lisa Levinson, and I am the Director of In Defense of Animals Sustainable Activism Campaign, and part of that is our Vegan Spirituality Program, which offers emotional and spiritual support for animal activists and for people who care about animals. So here we are together to welcome our featured speaker, which is Lorrin Maughan, and I will do more deep introductions a little later. You might be able to see her if you're online. I'd like to explain a little bit more about vegan spirituality, which is exploring veganism as a spiritual practice. And our organization, our group actually is nationwide, and we have groups across the country that meet locally every month and have events that explore veganism as a spiritual practice. So if you'd like to find out about a group near you, you can do that at veganspirituality.com. And if you'd like to start a group of your own in your area, please contact me at veganspirituality@gmail.com, and I'll help you to set up the group. But we have this online gathering that we started so that folks who don't live near those areas, or for whatever reason would prefer to have an online venue, that's why we created this, so we can together explore vegan spirituality, even though we're separated by the miles. So it's one of the perks of all of this new technology. So again, thanks for joining us. And my co-host in this is Judy Carmen. So Judy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. I'm Judy Carmen. I'm the author of Peace to All Beings, and my website is peacetoallbeings.com if you'd like to go there. And it's very tied into vegan spirituality, and which is why Lisa and I got together on this, because I'm very interested in this and how it can help us and the animals over the long term. And I also work with Will Tuttle on the circleofcompassion.org, which also ties in really well with vegan spirituality. And I put together a prayer every week that we send out, and you can sign up for that on the circleofcompassion.org. We also have a prayer circle for animals Facebook online that we welcome everyone to join and share prayers or needs for prayers or visions or focused intent, whatever feels right to you. So that's kind of a little bit about me. But what we're excited about is that we have Lorrin Maughan. How do you say your name? Lorrin?
You said it just right, Judy. You said it just right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
She is a vegan activist, a Reiki master, and a life coach whose former corporate career included, among other things, sales and consumer marketing for Fortune 100 companies. She now works with individuals facing burnout and overwhelm to reconnect them with their passion for building a better world, which I think applies to all of you out there are here because you want to build a better world. And so that's one of her major focuses, is to help us with that and enable us to continue making a difference in positive, healthy, sustainable ways. As a life coach, she is a certified practitioner in the equine Gestalt coaching method, which is new to me, and I want to hear all about it. I'm sure you all do too. Lorrin coaches by phone and Skype and also offers in-person equine guided experiences in partnership with her horse, Gift, a talented equine coach and healer. So we want to hear all about Gift. Lorrin says that, and I quote, "Horses have so much to offer humans on our evolutionary path, and I am honored to work with a horse whose name, Gift, reflects that. She is my partner in a revolutionary and transformational coaching process called the equine Gestalt coaching method, where you actually have two coaches in the session, a human coach and an equine coach. Now, Lorrin's website is lorrinmaughan.com. Lisa, can you put that on there somewhere?
Yes, I will.
If you're online, if you're not online, it's LORRIN as in Nancy, and then M for her last name, which is M for Mom, AUGHAN.com. So, Lorrin, welcome. We're so glad to have you with us. And I know everyone is so curious to hear more about Gift and how she helps you in the coaching process. How does that work?
Well, thank you for having me, Judy. And be careful, because I could talk about Gift all night. So she's fabulous. I used to have a coaching practice, just a straight old life coaching practice. I'd work with people over phone or Skype. And a friend of mine in one of the animal communication classes I was in suggested that I learn more about the program that she was in, which was the equine Gestalt coaching method. And so I did, and, it was interesting, and it was also expensive and a big commitment. It's 2 years and at least 8 out-of-state workshops that I had to go to. So I was kind of going to pass on it, but I went and sat with Gift for a while. She's been with me for a few years, and she really has helped me on so many levels as an animal communicator. She was the first one to say that she wanted to come and be with me. She was the first one to reassure me that, get over your commitment fears and just bring me into your life. And she,
wow.
I was sitting with her and thinking, is this something I wanted to do? And she said to me really clearly, and it echoed something my Reiki teacher had actually said to me a few years ago. She said, to help my people, you have to help heal your people. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks. That blew me away. To help animals, we have to help heal humanity, because we're the ones perpetrating the violence against them. We're the ones exploiting them, using them. And until we can heal our own human state, we can't hope to live in harmony with the animals on our planet, or even with our planet. So she really kind of got me on track for that. And it was, an intense program. You have to deal with a lot of your own stuff, which is a good thing. And so, I became certified, and really my mission is very much aligned with In Defense of Animals Sustainable Activism Campaign. It's very much about giving people or connecting people with resources. In my case, as a coach, I'm connecting them with resources inside themselves, right? They already have the answers. It's just not always in their field of consciousness. And so Gift and I help connect them with resources so that they can better align with who they are, what they need, to make sure that they can sustain their activism. I don't think that our Creator wanted us to be an angst-ridden, depressed, despairing species, right? And really, when we're in connection with our higher selves, we're not. We're joyful, and we're loving, and we're forgiving. And to be able to align people with that and help heal, some of the wounds that we sustain as activists, it's really important. It's important work. And Gift was right on the money when she said, humans have to heal. Humans have to heal. If we don't, we can't help the animals well. So the method that I follow is this equine Gestalt coaching method. So what it is the horse is an autonomous coaching partner, right? This is not a method where we use the horse as a tool, right? She's in the round pen with the client. Now, we do a safety demo, so we'll make sure that both the horse and the human are always going to be safe because they're big athletes, right? So we do the safety demo, but the horse is what we call at liberty. So they're not, they don't have any clothing or tack on them, right? She's naked, she's free. She chooses whether or not to interact with the human, and she chooses how she's going to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So as we go through the session, she brings her wisdom in a lot of different ways. Now, I firmly believe that horses have offered themselves in service to humanity for so long, and we've taken advantage of them. And they still, interestingly enough, still want to help us evolve. And I think that speaks to the nobility of their species. So how gift works personally is she does a lot of different things. She can, depending on the person and depending on what we're working on, she can do chakra balancing, which is a very sweet healing process that she does. She can hold space, for a big story. A lot of people, particularly activists, have got big stories. They might have a lot of trauma, and she'll hold space in a beautiful way for somebody to be able to speak that story. She'll very clearly tell you when you're not speaking your truth, right? When you're all up in your head and you think that you're telling your story and it's actually not what your heart believes, she'll walk away from you. She'll say that is not true, and you know it. And as soon as you start coming back into alignment and really kind of being with your truth, she'll come back to you and she'll say that's better, right? And we'll keep going. Wow. Sometimes she'll even do a little pantomime. She'll do something that makes somebody aware of either something they're doing or something that they need to do. An example was a lady who was talking about how she needed to take some care of herself and actually to pamper herself. She needed some really intense self-care. And it was a day that it had been raining, and Gift walked over to this big mud puddle, and she just lay in the mud puddle, and she rolled and rolled and rolled, and she was so joyful about it and so hedonistic. And the lady stared at her and said, I'm going to take myself to the hot springs for a day. Gift got up and came back over to her, and it was just really sweet. She's like, good girl. That's exactly what you need to do. So there's something about that. There's also something on an energetic, on an electromagnetic level. When you're in a horse's energy field, right, their heart is about 13 times bigger than ours, right? Every time that horse's heart beats, it generates electricity. And that electrical field is about 15 feet wide. So when you're in the proximity of a horse, what tends to happen, they have a much lower heart rate than ours, right? They breathe slower. And so we tend to even out. We tend to get grounded. We tend to be more in our bodies. We tend to slow down a little bit. And so, sometimes even just standing there with her can be a healing process in and of itself. And so that's another part of it, And then how we partner is I do a lot of observing. I ask a lot of questions. I'll point things out. And the person is the one who is accessing their own wisdom, right? We have what we call a coactive coaching process. I'm not a guru. I don't know them. I don't know what's best for them. They know what's best for them. And so when I point things out, or when Gift points things out, we can bring that up with the person, raise their awareness, and oftentimes they'll make connections that they need to make in order to move forward. So our job is really just to help them explore that.
So, Lorrin, can Gift work remotely, like on the phone, or does someone have to come to where she is for this?
That's a good question. I think an experiential, somatic experience, like in your body with the horse right there, is the most powerful way to do it.
I would think.
That's right. But, that said, I was on the phone with my coach who's up in Colorado, and we were working through a big decision I had to make. And so I said, hang on a second. I took my phone out into Gift's paddock, and I just sat there with her, and I was talking to my coach. And, she worked with me as if my coach was standing right there. And so I'm kind of exploring with people like, maybe we can work this on an energetic level as well. Maybe we can bring Gift into the sessions, in a way that maybe I'm there with her and my clients on the phone. We'll see. I'm not sure how that's going to work. We're going to give it a try and see how it works. I actually think it'll still be powerful, but honestly, if you can spend some time physically with a horse, it's transformational.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing about I really appreciate you sharing about the size of the heart of the horse too, because that does have a lot of meaning for us, because we know our hearts, and knowing that their hearts are even bigger and have that sense of greater compassion and greater holding the space as you described.
Yeah. And she's very good at holding space. People will tell her things that they have not been able to tell a human, and once that story comes out, we can do something with it. And she has this habit of, when somebody's telling a story that's really big and it's hard for them, she'll walk up to them and she'll just stick her head in their chest, and it just breaks something, like something opens, and next thing you know, like the floodgates. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and don't you think so many animals have that ability and are telling us that same thing, that we have to heal ourselves if we're going to heal them or help them.
Yeah.
Dolphins.
And what's really special about Gift too is that she came through a rescue situation. She was deeply traumatized. And so she gets it. She understands that. She understands trauma. She understands coming back from that. She understands, at the rescue where she used to be, where I used to volunteer, she would be very attracted to the volunteers who were teetering on the brink of burnout, who were, not able to hold it together. She would be very attracted to them because she had this knowledge that these people are here to help, and they need help to do that.
Wow.
And so I think her perspective is really valuable there too.
Boy. Well, I saw something on your website where you said if you are a change maker who is struggling to sustain your passion due to burnout or overwhelm, or if you simply want to do more for the world, let's talk. So what are some of the issues that activists are bringing to you and to Gift? And do they tend to be spiritual issues, or what are you experiencing?
I think for a start, if somebody is open to being coached by a horse, they've already opened the door to their spirituality. They're allowing a mystery that they don't quite understand to operate, and I think that that's a beautiful thing. But a lot of the issues, as with, I think we're all very familiar with these things, like a lack of forgiveness. That's a big one, right? A lot of activists carry this burden of self-judgment, shame, right? We used to be exactly what we're in opposition to now. Maybe we didn't change our ways early enough that we could have made so much more of a difference if we'd just woken up earlier. That we can't do enough, we're not making enough difference, all of that. So there's this real burden of self-judgment and shame, and that also kind of flows into oftentimes a burden of judgment on other people, right? On our species, on the rest of humanity. Like, how could they do this? Why haven't they woken up? It's so self-evident to me. Why can't they see this? And so forgiveness is a huge theme. How can we help forgive the wounds that we carry? How can we help forgive ourselves for the actions that we've taken? How can we help extend that forgiveness to other people? To the rest of humanity. I often find that this vegan misogyny that sometimes happens, where we start to hate the rest of humanity. I think sometimes that happens because we have this burden of judgment, and what I've found with people is that when you can really truly start to forgive yourself, it becomes a whole lot easier to extend that compassion to somebody else. So, you know, I think it was Buddha, right, who said, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And so we work on that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also find that we work with people on what I call a misalignment of values, right? So humans, we have needs, right? We have our physical needs, food and shelter, but we also have needs for approval, for love, for acceptance, right? For community, for validation, all that sort of thing. And I find that oftentimes when an activist is in a lot of internal pain and they have a lot of conflict about what they're doing, or they're feeling really burned out and unappreciated, what I find often is there's an underlying theme of trading away a value for a need, to meet a need, right? So maybe those are those times where we felt like we sold out, right? We didn't do enough. We didn't speak up. We didn't behave in a way that is consistent with our higher values, you know? So that time that the shelter worker yelled at the person surrendering their pet, right? Because they had a compassionate value system, but they also had a need for vindication or for justice or, you know, expression. The times, I mean, we've all done this where we've not spoken up against some kind of injustice because we didn't want to be ostracized, or we wanted to feel safe, or we didn't want to be, you know, attacked. So I think this happens a lot in the activist circles, is that we're constantly trying to find this balance between our values and our needs, and we don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. You know, so oftentimes you say to somebody, "Well, what are your values?" and it stops them. They're like, "Well, integrity." You know, okay. How important of a value is that? How does that support? How are you supporting that through your behavior, right? What are your needs, right? How is there a conflict between a value and a need? Because if there is, then let's talk about that. Let's see if we can address it. You know, why did you choose to volunteer? What motivated you to volunteer, right? Was it that you needed some kind of validation that you're a good person, or was it that, you know, you have a need to see justice done? You know, those sorts of things. So really, kind of when you become more aware of where you're coming from, what your operating system is, then it's easier for you to look at, okay, how can I support that? How do my actions support that? What do I need for myself to be able to live in alignment with that? And so those are some questions. And, you know, obviously this misalignment can sometimes come out in the form of this poor self-care that a lot of us will pray to, right? You know, where it's kind of this flip side of that, right? On one hand, sometimes we trade away our values to meet a need, but then on the other side, sometimes we trade away our needs to try and meet a value, right? And so our goal is to really, how do we get those aligned, right?
That's really a beautiful concept, because so what we've done is we've left, by becoming activists, we've left the tribe in a lot of ways. And so we're constantly confronting that, being ostracized, like you said, for our beliefs and our actions. But we don't want to be ostracized. So it's to put that into alignment is what we need to do to heal.
Exactly. And that's, you know, where you know, IDA comes up with, you know, the resource list that we can help point people to meetups or, you know, other like this exact gathering that we're in today. It's the ability to find a tribe, right? I think another part of that is also this lack of strategic thinking, right? We care a lot. Activists care a lot. And as a result of that, sometimes we forget this is a marathon, not a sprint. And, you know, we forget to practice good self-care. We forget to, you know, we get so attached to being right about something versus being kind, right? often, yeah, it's appropriate to be angry, right? We see things that we should be angry about. We should feel grief. We should feel horror. And at the same time, what are we doing with that? How are we using it? Are we using it strategically, or how effective are we being? And so, I mean, I think for me, I come from a Christian background. My ultimate strategy check, if you think of it that way, is that old phrase, "What would Jesus do?" Right? When we think about it, you stop and think, "What? Wait a second. If I were Jesus right now, how would I behave? What would I do? How would I extend my hand?" Right? And so for me, when I really stop and think about that, I find that I act differently. And so sometimes we need to step back and harness our emotions. And so how do we do that? How do we learn to do that? So that's another thing. And then, of course, the standard, this is something we all deal with on every level of our lives, right? These limiting beliefs, right? These belief systems that we've been handed, we've swallowed whole since childhood, right? The inner critic, I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. This isn't going to work. Who am I to make a difference in the world? Those sorts of things. And then, challenging those beliefs, especially when you're working with, a 1,000-pound being next to you, can be very empowering. And, I think sometimes we forget it as vegans. We forget that we've already challenged one of the most pervasive indoctrinated belief systems, right? We've already challenged that. We've reframed it, right? Like, we've got a head start on the whole challenging belief system thing. So, I think sometimes we forget that, and it's good to come back into touch with it. And then obviously there's the other things around, the grief that we're all going to feel in this field, the anger, the trauma that we're subjected to, particularly those in the field, right? That overwhelm, that sense of hopelessness sometimes, because this is a very, very, very big systemic issue that we're all working on, and that sometimes leads to despair. And I think I come back often to a conversation I had when I used to go to a convent. I went to school at a convent, and the nuns were, they were awesome human beings. I was lucky. And I said to one nun, I said, Sister Anne, why is suicide a mortal sin in the Catholic faith? I'm not Catholic, but, being in a Catholic school, you pick it up. And she said, I don't think that it's the suicide that is the mortal sin. I think it is the despair. I think it is the fact that we lost faith in our Creator, that we lost faith in the ability for something bigger than us to come to bear. And, for me, I come back to that a lot. I kind of feel like it's my responsibility to keep the faith, especially as a vegan. That's my job, right? My job is to keep the faith, to keep knowing that things are going to get better, that if I have to do my bit. It might not happen in my lifetime, right? I just saw that movie Suffragette, right? Women dying for, a cause that didn't realize in their lifetime necessarily, but it is coming to bear. And I think sometimes we need to take that step back and remember that we're part of a very, very big tapestry, and to not lose that faith, to fight the whole thing.
Yes, thank you, Lorrin. I appreciate you sharing that. And actually, I'm very eager to see that movie as well, because of its connection to the animal rights movement, and to really see many of the women who were also suffragettes were also animal rights activists. So that's something to remember as well. Yeah. And I'd like to take a moment just to share that Lorrin, she's actually also a counselor on our Animal Activist Helpline. So that's one of the ways that we reach out with the Sustainable Activism Campaign to help activists, is to offer kind of one-on-one counseling with activists who are having any number of issues going on, whether it's in their personal lives or just, related to their activism specifically. So I posted the link there, but it's you can get information at idausa.org/helpline. So that's available to you, and we're really grateful to Lorrin for being part of that initiative. It's wonderful. Thank you.
It's a privilege, Lisa. Thank you.
Oh. So, Lorrin, how do you think a spiritual practice can help activists? Because that's what our vegan spirituality is all about, and I think people, we, Lisa and I, and people who are listening in, are wanting to align, to use your word, our spirituality with our activism and figure out how that can really help us to prevent what you're talking about, the burnout, the despair, and all of these things that we have to deal with. And so how do you see a spiritual practice? Obviously, it could be many different kinds of spiritual practices, but how do you see that helping us?
Well, for a start, I don't believe you need to have a religious framework to adopt a spiritual practice. I think that anytime we connect with creation at a heart level, we're tapping into our spirituality. So I don't think it's just about a religion thing, right? For me, it's been critical as an activist, as a vegan, to be able to tap into that higher consciousness, to realize that we are part of the divine. And Buddhist concepts of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a deep, it's become a trite word because it's so overused right now, but it's a very deep spiritual practice to sit with a situation, to sit with, for example, the grief that we may feel, right? To see that as a way of honoring that life that was lost or that injury that was sustained. It's a way to honor another being. I think that idea of faith, for me, a spiritual practice is to continuously come back to, how do I find faith? How do I find faith in this? That gives me peace. That gives me perspective and hope. How can I find grace in this? So a lot of it is a very mindful thing. It's choosing to see myself as a reflection of the divine. And what that means is choosing to step into my divinity, step into my responsibility to behave in alignment with that divinity. So that means not reacting, right? That means responding, to think through things, to feel into things, to honor other beings. I think knowing that on a quantum level, we're all one. We're all one. And by the way, if you have not read Will Tuttle's book, The World Peace Diet, please do. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. It ties together so many things. So for me, a lot of my spiritual practice is, how do I honor the other? How do I honor the being? How do I honor the earth? How do I honor, even the humans who haven't woken up yet or who are being cruel? How do I find something in there to honor? Because we're all one. What I do to you, I do to myself. And so how can I shift my energetic manifestation, if you want, right? How can I shift how I'm showing up in the world? Because how I show up in the world is also going to come back, right? So every one of us, just to sometimes just even sit with, I'm with everybody. I'm one with everybody. I too am capable of violence, right? I too am capable of compassion. Which wolf do I choose to feed? If you think of that old Cherokee story about the two wolves, right? So I think, making sure that we do contemplate these notions, this loving kindness, forgiveness. I think for me, forgiveness is a massive, massive part of my spiritual practice. to constantly and affirmatively choose to forgive, to really kind of live into that. And
others,
also to
yourself,
know.
Lorrin?
Say again?
I'm sorry, I interrupted, but you're saying forgive others and yourself, right?
And yourself, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Forgiving ourselves is a huge part of forgiving other people, I think. It's, it gives us permission to forgive others. And I also hold on to a story that my pastor told up in Seattle. I used to live in Seattle, and my pastor told us this story about subatomic particles called muons, right? And he said, when you go into, and it was at Easter, so for us in the Christian faith, it's around Jesus died for us, and we're all going, well, that happened 2,000 years ago. Why are we all still going to hell in a handbasket? And he said, when you go into a dark room and you flip the light switch, it's light, isn't it? Instantaneously. And we all said, oh, yeah, of course it is. It's light instantaneously. That's electricity. And he said, okay, now consider yourself a muon, which is a subatomic particle. It is so small, it's part of the neutrino family, right? Trillions and trillions of these neutrinos are passing through us at every given second, right? The gaps between our atoms are so huge to them that it's like we don't even exist, right? So they're so, so tiny. And so he said, okay, now think of yourself as a muon, right? That light switch gets flipped. The resistance is initiated in the electrical pathway, right? The light starts to diffuse and infuse the room. And ta-da, eventually every space or every piece of that room is light. Now, if you were a muon, potentially millions of generations of you will have come and gone in the time that it took that light to infuse that room. So he says, think about that. Think about that. If we contemplate God or the Creator or the cosmic scheme, right, and we think of how huge that is and how vast and extensive that is it possible that we are to that scheme as muons are to us? Is it possible that in the cosmic scheme of things, it's already happened, and that we are just doing what we do because we're waiting for it to happen? That doesn't mean that we abdicate responsibility and just go, oh, well, it's going to happen. That, that we're part of that equation. We're part of, the muons living and dying are part of the energy exchange. And so I go back to that a lot. And just kind of do a meditation where I kind of pull myself up into the cosmos, and I think this is so vast and so huge. And what if that has already happened? What if everything that we're doing right now is part of something that has, to some greater intelligence or to the greater creation, already happened, right? That we're part of that energy exchange. And so for me, I go to that a lot. It gives me hope when I'm feeling despair. It gives me faith, and it reminds me to kind of get out of this micro focus and take it up into a macro focus. Then I can be more strategic. Then I can be less emotionally attached to an outcome. Then I can start to be more effective, I believe. So I think, for us to have a spiritual practice, frankly, I believe veganism is a spiritual practice, just insofar as we've made a choice to honor other beings. We've made a choice to step away from violence. And every day we have to live into those choices. Every day we affirmatively choose that choice. And to me, that's part of a spiritual practice.
I love that. That's so beautifully said. And I think that is a big part of our spiritual practice is realizing that we have made that step. We have made that choice to step out of violence, like you said, and honor all beings. That's so beautiful, Lorrin. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your own journey to veganism and how you've put that together with your spirituality?
Okay. Well, it's not an original story, right? I mean, I was brought up in Zimbabwe, so it's a very colonial. It was a very meat-orientated world. So I grew up eating meat. I grew up, like most of us, not making the connection between the fact that I loved animals and that I was also eating them, wearing them, etc. And, had that nagging feeling that I think a lot of us have that we finally end up responding to. And so, part of it is, in my 20s, I was like, that's it, I'm going to go vegetarian, right? I was living in Australia, which is another very meat-centric society. I'm going to become a vegetarian. And so I told everybody, I was going to be a vegetarian, it's great. And at the work cafeteria one day, I show up and I'm looking at the food, and I'm like, oh, I'll have that and that and that. Thanks very much. And I take it back to my table and I start eating. And I realize all my colleagues are looking at me like, what are you doing? And I looked at them and I'm like, what? And they said, well, aren't you vegetarian? And I looked down on my plate and I realized that I had completely forgotten. And I'd ordered this chicken dish, right, that had been one of my favorites for years and years and years. I just forgot, right? And that was like, oh my God. And so, like a lot of people, I was like, oh, well, if I can't do it properly, I won't do it at all. And, that whole, like, rationalization thing that you do. And so went for a little longer in my little unenlightened state. And then my dad had a couple of heart surgeries. And after the second one, he said to his cardiologist in Oklahoma City, one of the meat centers of the U.S., said to his cardiologist, look, I don't ever want to do this again, ever. How do I stop it? Like, how do I reverse this heart disease? And the cardiologist said, well, it's simple. It's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Eradicate animal proteins from your diet. Eradicate all animal products. And my dad was like, what? And the cardiologist said, well, look, I said it was simple. I didn't say it was easy. Most people choose to just keep taking medication. It's a challenge to try and be a vegan in Oklahoma City. And my dad said, challenge, and went vegan overnight. And of course I was like, oh my God, I've just been called on the mat, right? Like all of a sudden, here's my dad who's saying I didn't do it for the animals, I did it for myself. And I'm suddenly realizing, oh my God, I'm such a hypocrite. Why haven't I taken that step? Why didn't I do that? And, I'm the animal lover in the family. I'm the one who's always carrying on. So it was a real kind of wake-up call for me. It was like, hey, where's your accountability? And so, of course, again, like a lot of people, I hedged my bets and I went vegetarian, right? And so I was like, but I can't give up my ice cream. And I can't give up my chocolate, milk chocolate. And so I was like, but I'm doing the right thing. I don't eat eggs and I don't eat meat. But that wasn't really enough, was it? We all get to that point. And so, I was volunteering with animal rescues and advocating vegetarianism. And then we had the Seattle Film Festival. And I went to see this beautiful documentary. If you can get it, you should. It's called Peaceable Kingdom, The Journey Home. Right. And it is beautiful. Absolutely the sweetest, most redemptive story. And I'll leave it at that because I really think you should watch it. And so I went to see this movie, and it was a complete game changer for me on so many levels. I walked out of that cinema completely vegan. But what I also discovered through that movie was this compassion for humans, because I'd never made the human connection. I'd never realized how much we're wounding ourselves. The children who raise these animals and have them taken away from them to send off to slaughter, and their little hearts break. The fact that the U.S. meat industry has been cited by Amnesty International for so many human rights violations. The fact that communities with slaughterhouses are exponentially more likely to have violent crime, particularly rape, right? So I just hadn't made those connections before. And so all of a sudden, boom, heart breaks, mind opens, right? And whole worldview changed. So went vegan, then started studying Reiki, started studying animal communication, and more and more and more, the connection. We're all connected. And, realizing just how beautiful these other earthlings are, realizing that they're funny and they're complicated and, they have senses of humor and irony, and they love, and they're, all of this stuff just keeps coming home to me. And, that often they choose to be here with us, but they're not here for us. And so, frankly, it kind of blows my mind that there are still people out there who communicate with animals and then still eat them, because I think as soon as you communicate with another being, you made a connection, and your cognitive dissonance has got to be pretty strong to say, oh, that was just that turkey. I go, oh my God, that was that turkey, and he was hilarious, and and all of a sudden, I don't have an issue. Like I've always had a fear of birds, right? Particularly turkeys and chickens, and got attacked by an ostrich once. so I kind of had that. And since I started communicating with animals, there's no fear. I used to be terrified of snakes. I'm not terrified of snakes anymore. I recognize that that they can be funny too. They can have opinions too, and that made me realize that we're not all that different. We have different cultures. I think you had Ray Sakura on. Was it last month? Yeah, and
recently. No. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. She's beautiful. She talks about the different cultures. That we have our culture, and that sometimes we don't understand somebody else's culture, and of course when there's a language barrier, and that makes understanding their culture a little more different. And so when you can communicate with an animal, you suddenly cross that cultural barrier, and you realize, it's like all of a sudden you connect with another human from a different culture at a heart level, and you realize that we're the same. How is that? I thought you were different. So it's the same with animals. I find that the minute we can connect with them, we realize, oh, you're just a different culture. So it's been a journey. I think that there's a lot of stages of veganism. I think that it's an evolution. We kind of go vegan, and then we become evangelists, and then we become judgy evangelists, and then we start moving through all of those phases and learn to forgive ourselves, forgive others, learn to look at the bigger picture. Right now, I look at thanks to IDA, actually, is a lot of the issues around intersectionality of social justice issues, looking at that and how they're all connected, realizing that as a woman, to allow another female to be exploited and to be raped and to be, have her children stolen from her, that's I can't stand by and let that happen anymore, because not only is she another being who deserves her own life and her own culture, and she's also a woman. She's also a female. There's so many things that we have in common. So I think, I'm kind of like going, wow. Every time I learn more stuff, it just kind of expands. So I think, ultimately, I believe we're made in the image of God. That we're made in the image of our creation. And we were given stewardship of this earth, of ourselves, of our other beings. And what that means to me is that we have a responsibility to get along, to live in peace together, to be able to as Will puts it in his book, contribute to the broader intelligence of the system. And so if I'm going to live into that, if I'm going to live into my divinity, I need to be aware of when am I inflicting violence, right? When am I moving into a more loving way of interacting? Praying, For me, Reiki is prayer. I have direct conversational prayer, but I also, if I'm driving down the freeway and one of those horrible slaughter trucks drives past me, I immediately send Reiki. And I say the Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian prayer for forgiveness. It's basically a recognition of we're all one, right? So I say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I love you, and thank you. And I say that every time. Every veal farm, every feedlot. Anytime I do that, it's not like I can stop, pull over and stop their operation in its tracks. I'll do what I can do. And when I can't, I'll pray, I'll send Reiki. And I'm going to use my business to try and help heal other people, to try and help people live into their spirituality, into their value system. Because the more we can do that, the more the ripple happens, and the better we get at it as a species. Yeah. So long answer to a short question.
Oh, thank you, Lorrin. I have a little question that's related to this. I'm wondering, did your spiritual awakening or your abilities to connect more deeply with the animals, do you think that's related to becoming vegan, or is that something that you practiced beforehand?
I think timing really kind of was fortuitous in that it all sort of started to happen together. Honestly, I think that being vegan is part of, for me, being authentic. And so as all of this other stuff happened, as I'm learning about energetic connections and healing and all of that, when I first started doing Reiki, I was like, I'm not going to do Reiki on people. The whole reason I'm learning this is so I can do Reiki on the horses at the shelter, or the dogs and cats. I'm just going to work on animals. And my Reiki teacher laughed and laughed, and she said, that's what they all say. And she said, you will work on people too. And I'm like, no, why would I do that? And she said, because we need healing. And interestingly enough, I still work on animals because they love it. But my Reiki practice has kind of become more all-encompassing. I send Reiki to situations. I send Reiki to people. I offer direct Reiki. I actually do, at the Santa Fe Animal Shelter, I've gone in and given like a day of Reiki. So I'll take my table in, set it up, and the shelter workers will come and have half-hour sessions of Reiki. Because I think if we can support the people who are doing the help, right? If we can support the work that they're doing, then yeah. So yeah, it's kind of all happened in its own perfect flow. It's kind of a perfect storm of goodness, I think.
Wonderful. I'm wondering if anyone who's listening in has a question.
Yes, and if you do, what I'll do is I'm going to change the style of meeting that we're having from a listening meeting into more of a Q&A. And so you might hear an announcement, but if you'd like to then push *6 on your phone, then you'll be able to ask Lorrin a question, or you can also do the same thing by going to the microphone, little mini microphone on your computer, and you can click there to unmute yourself. But I'll do this right now, so one moment.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
So if anyone has a question, you can press *6 or click the microphone, like I was mentioning, next to your name in the computer. And another option is in the chat box, you can also type a question if you're in a situation where you can't actually speak on the phone or computer.
And Suzanne, I'm noticing a couple of your comments in the comment section. I'm actually in Santa Fe, New Mexico right now. I do have colleagues all over the country. So, and And I love what you said about learning to come to peace with what you can do as an activist. You know, we don't all have to boil the ocean, and every single one of us has a part to play. So I love that you're in a more encouraged and empowered space around that. Thank you for sharing.
I have a question for you on the phone.
Hi.
Hi.
Great. Can you say your name?
My name is Heather.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Heather. Thank you.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for holding this call. I really appreciate it. So I'm a new vegan, just a little bit over a month, and I'm finding that I have a little bit of a conflict of interest with my career, with my job, and I'm wondering what advice you could give, I guess, for not feeling so guilty and knowing that it'll probably take time to get out of what I'm doing now, but the company that I work for does support, in one way or another, cruelty to animals. Maybe not directly, but we sell products that are intended to kill insects and animals.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've been struggling for a while.
Yeah.
We do sell products that help pets with infestations of pests, but that's not the only thing. So it's it's become really difficult for me.
Sure. So Lisa or Judy, did you want to offer anything?
Sure. I can share, but and then please chime in. Yes, I completely relate, and I think many of us vegans out there, that's one of the challenges that we face, is that when we have a job, most of us have a job that in some way likely affects the animals negatively. It can be so many things. A lot of businesses use little traps to kill mice, and other places serve non-vegan food. And so it really, I think this is a very common issue, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I think that recognizing that you've made a huge choice, and one that will make a very big difference for the animals. One person going vegan saves so many lives. And I think to focus on what you've done to actually make a difference. And then as you go through the process at your job, you may find that another job suits you better. And you may also in time find that you can encourage the management there to shift some of the products into more cruelty-free products. Now, I don't know if that's possible depending on the business itself, but I know in previous places that I've worked, I've made an effort to speak to the management and say, well, here's an idea, here's something we can try. And it wasn't always received well, but I think that this idea that Lorrin mentioned of staying true to yourself. So sometimes staying true to yourself is speaking the truth, whether or not anything comes of it.
Right. Well, I'm hoping at least to be able to use my industry knowledge, for good at some point. And I know somehow it'll be a gift, but right now it's a curse.
Oh.
Anyway.
It is difficult. But first of all, congratulations. A month in, that's a big shift. And we're all here to support you. We're all here to cheer you on and to, share resources if you're looking, like, hey, I'd like to suggest a cruelty-free alternative. Does anyone have experience with different ways of discouraging, animal populations in certain areas? Because I know, like, I live at a barn where we run with mice, and I'm constantly fighting a battle with the management here about, we don't need to put mice traps out. Really, we don't. There are other ways to do it. If you don't want them in the kitchen, I put peppermint oil out and say, please don't come to the kitchen. Please. And I leave food outside, but don't tell anyone else that. It's first of all, like Lisa said, you've made a big shift. You've made a huge shift. and to kind of sit with that shift for a while. We can't make an exponential shift all the time, right? So you've made one huge shift in a big area of your life. You know that your industry knowledge is going to be useful to you. So kind of think of this time maybe with your company as market research. You're looking at, why do people believe that they have to buy these products? Why do people believe that these are the only ways of doing things? Maybe are there any competitors out there who do something different, less cruel? So it's kind of, maybe sometimes we have to sit on the other side of the line and gather as much information as we can, kind of prep ourselves for that move. Right. And sometimes that can help us take it, right? That can help us kind of wait it out, until we find that other opportunity that's more aligned with what we do. You're the only one who's going to be able to know what your tolerance level there is, and whether or not you feel the need to say, you know what, that's it, I'm moving now, I'm going to do something else, or okay, I'm going to use this time, I'm going to, find out whatever skills I need to do something different, or I'm going to use this as market research, or however you want to approach it. But, you're going to decide. Sometimes you're just going to say, that's it. Like, I've made this decision. This is not aligned. It's not feeling good to me. I feel horrible every morning when I go to work. Or you're going to say, like you just did, I'm feeling hopeful. I feel like I can move forward. And I feel like this is going to be able to help me to move into a better way. And hey, check out and see if any of your colleagues have value systems that are similar. I know that when a group of employees gets together, they can make a real change. And perhaps getting to know people in the product development groups, and getting to know people who might be sympathetic to the new position that you're taking, might give you allies, so that when you take it to management and say, hey, I wonder if we could investigate some cruelty-free options, that maybe you'll have allies to support you.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah. I appreciate your input.
And you never know. This also could be, you could come up with a product that actually is a cruelty-free version of the things you're selling, just because you have that desire to do so. And so you never know what can happen.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I also wanted to mention there's someone who put in the chat box a question that she recently started creating an angelic energy healing sessions as digital downloads, and wondering, because of your similarity in professions, do you have any advice for a successful healing business?
Well, if we were in a coaching session, I'd be asking you a bunch of questions around, what do you define as successful? Because I think that's a really important place to start. Am I successful when I help a lot of people, or am I successful when I make a lot of money? Am I successful? How do I know when I'm being successful? So I love the idea of digital downloads, because I think that's something that people can access. I'm going to put a plug into a book that I'm working through, called How to Realize Your Ideal Practice. Let me see. Here we go. It's Building Your Ideal Private Practice. Here it is. It's actually where's my camera? It's actually a book I'm working through at the moment. And what it is she's a coach. She's a business coach. She was a psychotherapist, Lynn Grodsky. And I think it's a great resource, because what she realized was that a lot of healing professionals are passionate about their business, and they go into business because they want to make a difference and they want to help and they want to heal, but they don't know much about business, and they don't necessarily fall in love with their business so that they can foster it and look after it and grow it and sustain it. And so what she does is, how do we marry this kind of cold, hard, entrepreneurial business world with what's in our hearts for healing people? So I'd suggest having a read of that book. I think it's, she's been very, very helpful to me in terms of building my business and coming to terms with that those two halves of the brain, I guess, So that I'd start with that. And, obviously, anytime anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook. I've got my website. I'm happy to chat, just have a quick chat, or, if you wanted coaching, we could do that, but that's not for this call.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Lorrin. Do you mind either typing the title of the book into the chat box or holding it up again?
I will. Well, I'll do both. I actually have my PC sitting on it, so it's called Building Your Ideal Private Practice. Okay,
great,
and it's by a lady called Lynn. Well, where's my camera again? There it is, Lynn Grodsky. Yeah.
Okay.
So, great.
Well, we are a little past time. It's
sorry.
And Lorrin was going to close with a prayer. That's what we usually do to just all feel like we're really together, which we are, and together in spirit and on this wonderful community that Lisa has helped put together. So if there aren't any other questions, and Lisa...
I have one question.
Okay.
Yes, I wanted to know...
Can you say your name for us?
Yes.
Can you share your name?
Yes, my name is Miriam. And hi, Lorrin.
Hi, Miriam.
Thank you for doing this. I wanted to know what would be a good time to call, what would be a good day and time to call for one-on-one. If I have a counseling question.
Okay.
For counseling.
Would you want to call the hotline, the IDA hotline, or would you want to call me directly?
The helpline.
Say again?
Yeah, the helpline.
The hotline?
Or is it called? I thought it was called the helpline.
Yeah,
sure.
That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right, Lisa?
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And if you'd like to reach Lorrin on the helpline, she's there on the Tuesday evening.
Tuesday nights.
Okay. And what is the time that is available on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Well, it's across the country, so it depends on your time zone. But it's
and Mountain Time.
Can you find it on the website?
Sure. Yeah. Probably the best thing to do, Miriam, is to check the website. It's idausa.org/helpline, and I put that in the chat box here. So that way it'll give you all the hours and you can kind of figure out for your time zone what is the best. But we're mostly, it's open many hours those days. So you can pretty much call any time, I would say in the afternoon or evening, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. That was the only question I had.
Perfect. Thanks, Miriam. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
And I guess... Thank you. And here we are. We're ready for our closing prayer. And thanks to everyone for spending time with us this evening and also spending a little extended time to get some more wisdom from Lorrin.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful having everyone.
Thank you. Okay, this is I think one of my favorite prayers. It's the prayer of St. Francis, who, as you all know, is the patron saint of animals. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Created, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and in dying that we find eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Lorrin.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorrin. That was very beautiful. And I haven't really heard that prayer directly, so I appreciate it. And I also wanted to thank Lorrin for being a guest today with us, and also to let folks know that our next Vegan Spirituality Gathering will actually be in the new year. It'll be on the 14th. And Judy, I believe our next guest is Kevin Akers, Keith Akers will be our next.
Huh?
Yeah, he'll be our next guest. So.
He's a fascinating speaker, and he's the author of The Lost Religion of Jesus, which goes into a lot of indications that Jesus and his family were vegan. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, so it's interesting for us. We're really exploring all realms of vegan spirituality. So thank you again to everyone for joining us this evening and for participating in our online community. So we hope that you'll continue and join us again. And we'll also send a replay link of this. So if you want to hear like what Lorrin said again, we'll share that probably a week or two following this, once we do any edits that are necessary. And then you'll have that. You can share it with your friends and other people you think might be interested. So again, thank you so very, very much. If you'd like to participate in a group goodbye, then feel free to unmute yourself and we'll all kind of say goodbye together. Anybody's ready?
Okay.
So have a wonderful evening and have a very happy holidays and cruelty-free holidays that are vegan blessings.
Oh, that is adorable, Lisa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, thank you. It's so nice to hear your voices. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Thank you again. Merry Christmas to you all as well.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Bye. It just died.